back, everybody, to the BKA Beloved Show. I'm your host, BKA Beloved. On today's show, we got a whole new number one team on top the NFL power rankings. Yet another Cowboys road loss and a college football playoff preview. But first, a word from our sponsor. That's very sports talk radio of me to go a word from our sponsor. Who do I think I am? Anyways, so opening segment. By the time next week's episode will come out, the first round of the college football playoffs would have already happened. So I was looking through, doing a little research like I usually do, seeing who I think would win. And I stumbled upon a very quick theory that I wanted to run by the people real quick. If you look through the almost decade history of the college football playoff, the winner either has one of these two things: the best player and or quarterback, or a juggernaut team. Don't believe me? Let's look through the history. We'll work backwards a little bit here. We'll start with the last two Georgia teams, 2023 and 2022. 25 NFL players drafted, and I think 22 of them are on the Philadelphia Eagles. They're so good that Stetson Bennett is an NFL quarterback right now. They just now lost their first game in almost 3 years, not even a month ago, against Alabama. If that's not a juggernaut, I don't know what is. Year before that, 2021, juggernaut and best player, Devontae Smith's Heisman season Alabama team. Devontae Smith's Heisman numbers are a lot more crazy than I remember him being. We got 98 receptions, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdown catches, 137 yards a game. Crazy. And perhaps his greatest accomplishment of all, convincing the world that Mac Jones is worth the first round draft pick, which, as you can see by my hoodie, if you're watching this, affects me greatly. I'm wearing a Patriots hoodie for y'all that are just listening audio-wise. 10 selections in the 2021 draft. Next, 2020. Probably the best team on this list. Juggernaut and best player / quarterback Joe Burrow, that LSU team. I can argue the greatest college football team of all time. I don't feel like going back and forth with people, so we'll say one of right now. Joe Burrow's Heisman numbers. True road to glory video game PlayStation stuff right here. Over 5,000 total yards, over 50 total touchdowns, a completion percentage of just under 78%, the highest in Heisman history. Then NFL record, 14 players selected in the NFL draft. That does not include Jamar Chase, who was the number 5 overall pick the following year, and Derek Stingley Jr., who was the number 3 pick 2 years later, who was already the best corner in the country as a freshman. Year before that, we got Trevor Lawrence, who coincidentally also lost the following year to Joe Burrow, but we're not talking about that right now. At the time, we thought Trevor Lawrence was the next Peyton Manning. Obviously, it hasn't worked out that way yet. I still have hope. Some people don't, but we'll see. 2018, the best quarterback in the country was Lamar Jackson, but since he was on Louisville School for the Blind, didn't really work out that way as far as getting him to the playoffs. So we're going to have to deal with these juggernauts instead. The two teams that did make it was Georgia and Alabama, who, if y'all remember, both were juggernauts that year. Between the two of them, 18 NFL draft picks that following year. 12 for Bama, 6 for Georgia. That does not include Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Tua, and all the other Alabama players that later on became first-round picks years later after that draft, too. Year before that, best quarterback, Deshaun Watson. I will not explain further for obvious reasons. Year before that, Alabama, juggernaut. 2016 Alabama's team had Heisman winner, best player in the country, Derrick Henry, who ran for all the yards. I don't have to look it up because if you remember Derrick Henry's Heisman year, it looks exactly the way Derrick Henry looks now, except he was doing it to college kids back then, so it looked even worse. Derrick Henry looked the exact same way he looks right now in college. I don't think he's gained a single pound since he graduated college. So just imagine the way he's throwing around grown men now. He was doing that to kids who had to study for calculus the next day in college. Ridiculousness. The first year of the college football playoff. Now, this one was a little bit tricky because we didn't know that this guy was the best player in the country until the playoffs started. But oh boy, when it did, Ezekiel Elliott's 2015 Ohio State Buckeyes. I need y'all to follow me here. History is not kind to many people as far as remembering just how good they were and what they did in their time in their heyday. Ezekiel Elliott sadly is one of those people. I'm going to read to you his 3-game run from the Big Ten championship to the national championship. Big Ten championship against Wisconsin, who was number 13 in the country at the time. 20 rushes for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. First round of the college football playoff, the Sugar Bowl against number 1 Alabama. 20 rushes, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. National championship against Oregon. 36 rushes, 246 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, I know that Zeke's been in our lives for quite some time, and for some reason playing for the Cowboys makes people think you're worse. Just ask Dak Prescott. We have an NFL question about him later that'll put that question to the test. Just trust me on that one. Ezekiel Elliott was one of the best college running backs in my lifetime, and he was picked number 4 in the draft for a reason. That Zeke playoff run may have been forgotten to history, but it was different, let me tell you. So why did I just run through the past 10 years of college football history? Well, let me tell you, audience. As I'm looking at this year's landscape, top 4 teams, Bama, Texas, Washington, Michigan, I don't really see a juggernaut in there, do y'all? I mean, Washington is undefeated, and they played in what the best conference in the world this year was, which is the Pac-12, which great time to be the best conference in the country, Pac-12, on the last year you're going to exist. Is Michigan a juggernaut? Not really. Level of competition, that Iowa game definitely didn't inspire confidence in the country. Alabama's been playing really well, but they've already dropped the game to another team that's in the tournament already. And I don't think anyone would call Texas a juggernaut, would they? However, there's one team amongst the 4 who definitely qualifies for category 2, best quarterback. Although if you ask the Heisman voters, she's the second best quarterback in the country, but story for another day. I'm not here to rehash the Heisman. Michael Penix Jr. of the Washington Huskies is going to be the reason I picked the Huskies to not only beat Texas, but to beat the winner of Alabama and Michigan to win the national championship. As far as Alabama and Michigan's game, I'm going with Alabama, and here's why. If you really look at the roster construction for Michigan, it's really just Jim Harbaugh doing a mid-2010s Alabama impression, and you're not going to out Nick Saban, you know what I mean? A lot of people see it for J.J. McCarthy in ways that I just simply don't. Hopefully he proves me wrong on the next level. Y'all know me. I wish nothing but the best for these college kids, but I just don't see it right now. And if it comes down to these 2 stellar defenses are completely shutting the other offense's number 1 best thing down, we need to improvise. The person I trust the most to improvise on either one of those offenses is Jalen Milroe, because he wants to improvise anyways. He wakes up wanting to improvise. That's what he does. So for the national championship, we're going Alabama versus Washington. And I got Michael Penix Jr. raising a trophy at the end and solidifying himself as a first-round draft pick, because for whatever reason, I don't see him on top of a lot of mock drafts in the first round, but trust me, he will be in the next 2 weeks or so. Let me tell you. Quick break, and then I'm going to get to these NFL questions. All right, NFL Week 16 NFL questions. This season is flying by. If you want your questions to be a part of the podcast, add BKA Beloved on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Every Monday morning, there'll be a nice little picture saying, submit your question here, ask me anything. You submit your question, you can hear your question asked on the podcast, just like this. Ain't no way you still doing questions on Christmas. You goddamn right I'm still doing questions on Christmas. Obviously, the past Monday to this podcast was Christmas, and I'm assuming the person watching this was just in utter disbelief as to someone who wants to work in sports is doing sports stuff on the holiday. Even though, if you would have turned on ESPN on that very same holiday, who would you have saw? All the people in sports to which I aspire to be. What was there? 5 NBA games, 3 NFL games. Is it just the players out there? Are they talking to themselves? Are there no announcers, no analysts, no nothing? First Take was still on TV. NBA Countdown was still on TV. Every single position sports-wise that I would see myself being in the future, they're all working. Why shouldn't I? In case y'all haven't noticed, I take this thing very, 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 very seriously. Don't matter if it's my birthday, your birthday, or apparently Jesus' birthday. I will be here doing what I do. Thanks for the question. I need to know what happened to Jacksonville. They let everybody in the South catch up. Guys, if y'all learn nothing from me, I need you to learn this. Offensive lines are important. Offensive lines are important. Offensive lines are important. They have been weak in the offensive line since the offseason. They've had injury after injury throughout this season. And now Trevor Lawrence is 4 injuries in at this point? Had the knee injury earlier in the season. We saw his ankle get rolled up on against the Bengals. Got a concussion. It was in concussion protocol over the week. Got knocked out of this game because of the shoulder. This is supposed to be your $250 million quarterback this upcoming offseason, and that's how you're protecting him? No wonder y'all dropped 4 straight. However, it's not just the offensive line, though. Although, again, offensive lines are important. I need y'all to hear me and hear me good. Offensive lines are important. The pass defense has finally caught up to them. They've been near the bottom of the league pretty much all season long. They're 29th right now. That's not an accident. Tyson Campbell's been in and out of the lineup, but ask Mike Evans. I don't think he's that much of a difference maker. So you can't stop the other team from passing the ball, and you can't protect the person who's supposed to be passing the ball for you. That is not a recipe for success. Of course they're floundering the way they are right now. This shouldn't be surprising to anybody. Lastly, before I move off the Jaguars, we are slowly approaching it is time to have a conversation time with Trevor Lawrence. I see some of you are jumping the gun already. You're putting his numbers next to Daniel Jones and already calling him a bust. He was drafted in 2021. Granted, all the other quarterbacks in this draft, you guys are calling bust already. I still have hope for Trey Lance and Justin Fields because, president of Black Quarterback Fan Club. But still, y'all know. I say we let this season play out and we'll reassess next year. Unless they give him the giant contract this offseason, then all bets are off and we got to judge him like the highest paid quarterback in the league, which he would be if he gets the contract this year. Thanks for the question. Should the Cowboys switch Micah to middle linebacker to stop the run? All right, so here's why that doesn't make as much sense to me. We have this guy in Micah Parsons that does this thing better than pretty much everyone in the league, which is rush the passer. I know sack numbers, pressure numbers, blah, blah, blah. Watch the film. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. And we're going to have him do that less because other people on my defense can't handle the job that they're supposed to be doing. Other people that I knew would struggle handling the job before we even came into the season. Inside linebacker issues are not new for the Cowboys. Ask any Cowboys fan, they will tell you that was an issue before the season started. I get it. You're getting gashed in a run game and you got to do something about it. But taking your best player and making him do what he's not best at, granted, Mike is still a good inside linebacker. He could good at anything. Hell, put him at corner. He'll probably be good at that too. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if they do have to permanently switch on the middle linebacker, only make him a third down pass rusher, that is a sign of desperation that I'm not sure they want to show yet. However, if the Lions walk into Jerry World and run the ball up and down the field on them, then at that point, they have no choice. Thanks for the question. What's going on with Dallas? Dak plays good sometimes and plays like Zach Wilson other times. Now, earlier, I was talking about how playing for the Cowboys makes people think that you're worse than you actually are. In no universe should Dak Prescott and Zach Wilson be used in the same sentence. Unless you're a rapper and you're trying to throw some bars together. Other than that, On the list of issues with the Cowboys, Dak Prescott doesn't crack the top 3. But I shall humor you. Let's go through Dak's performance against the Dolphins, and we'll see, was he the problem? We had 20 for 32, 253 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, an opening drive fumble. Not awful. An almost 8-minute drive to close the game, give his team the lead, and give one of the best defenses in the league, allegedly, the ball back with 3 minutes left in the game to get the other team off the field in a they have to pass position. And we have one of the best pass rushers in the league. What more do you want from Dak Prescott? Honestly, what more do you want from him? Is it MVP throwing for 500 yards Dak that we were seeing earlier in the season? No. Is it the Buffalo game Dak we were seeing? No. The most concerning things for the Cowboys are 3 things. First, the home road splits are way more real than the we can't beat a good team thing. It just so happens that most of the good teams they've been playing have been on the road. Most notably the 49ers. At home, they are undefeated and dominate teams. On the road, they are 3-5. All 5 of those losses came to teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And the Cardinals. Playing on the road, it's all good when you're walking into MetLife to play Daniel Jones and the Giants. The Panthers? Oh, great. They're selling tickets for what, 45 cents now? Los Angeles Chargers? They're on what, head coach number 2? They got that. In the playoffs, that's not going to cut it. Speaking of playoffs, the run concerns on both sides of the ball are a very real thing. We spoke about Ezekiel Elliott earlier. You guys think they miss Zeke now? After watching Bernard Pollard give up on an easy walk-in touchdown because he tried to prove a point by running through a safety on the Dolphins on a drive they ended up not scoring on, so he literally cost his team 7 points trying to be a hero. You know who wouldn't have done that? Ezekiel Elliott. I just watched him hurdle a guy for a touchdown just this past Sunday for my Patriots in a game I didn't want them to win, but sure. The Cowboys saw that and said, damn, maybe we should have kept paying him all that money, because I would have. And on the other side of the ball, I thought it was just purely going to be all right, maybe they're a little too light in the cheeks. Maybe the Bills were able to come punch them in the mouth real quick and run the ball up and down the field on them because they're more built to rush the passer than they are to stop the run. Turns out I might be right. Miami only got 91 rushing yards on them because they're not a power running team. They're a side running team. Problem is, the teams they'll be seeing in the playoffs, most notably the Eagles and the Niners, are both power running teams. The Eagles, when they decide to run the football, more on that later, are a power running team. The 49ers can do both, but more notably, power running team. They want to use that inside zone to road grade you. And then concern number 3 for the Cowboys is Mike McCarthy, who just continues to make head scratching decisions on the head coaching side. As a play caller, he's been excellent this year, honestly. I know we're hesitant to give Mike McCarthy credit because people just think he's a dunce, but no, as a play caller, he's been great. As far as running a modern offense, he's been great. But just the actual act of head coaching, when to go for it on 4th down, when to kick the field goal, time management, that part he has not been good at. I heard someone say that they would take the Buccaneers against them in that first round game if the Bucs end up winning the NFC South, which by all intents and purposes, it looks like they're going to, right? But there's a Bucs question after this, so we'll tie it in after that. Nice little segue. Here's the problem with that. The Buccaneers are very dependent on their passing game and Baker Mayfield making it work. Shout out to Baker. We'll get to him in a second. We just talked about how the Cowboys' weakness is stopping the run. The Buccaneers have the 30th ranked rushing offense. If you're going to say, I'm going to go against Dallas and we're going to throw the ball all day against them, good luck. That's not how you get that done. So that's just a bad matchup for the Buccaneers in general. So Dallas probably gets away with that one. But if you're walking into, I always want to call 49er Stadium Candlestick. They're not even in San Francisco anymore. They're in Santa Clara. If you're going to walk into Levi Stadium and say, we're the Cowboys, we can't run the football nor stop the run. We got Dak, though. They're going to get ran out the building again. You're going to walk into Lincoln Financial, same thing. You're going to get ran out the building. I don't know. The Cowboys have a lot to figure out, but Dak Prescott isn't one of them. Dak is who we thought he was, who's playing better this year, but he's had a couple games in between. Thanks for the question. The Bucs, specifically Baker Mayfield, have been cooking recently. Is Baker really that good? So Baker Mayfield is currently on track to have his best season ever. He currently has a career high in yards per game when he plays the full season. He's going to have a career high in touchdowns at this rate. If he doesn't throw another pick, he'll match his career low in picks when he plays the full season. So Baker's balling, objectively, just balling, playing his ass off. But if we really look at the past 2 years of Baker's career, he never really got worse. It was just really shitty circumstances. Follow me. His last season with the Browns 2 years ago, he had a complete labrum tear in his left shoulder, the non-throwing shoulder. Kind of hard to be Baker Mayfield if you only got one arm. Plays through the whole season anyways. Ends up not getting paid by the Browns. The Browns trade for Deshaun Cosby in the offseason. Baker gets shipped out to Carolina. Everyone's down on Baker now. Ooh, what's wrong with Baker? Okay, Baker goes to Carolina. It looks decent at first. Signs of life. And then no. Ends up getting cut from Carolina. However, now that we've seen Bryce Young and how this season went, we all know Carolina's a dysfunctional franchise. Not much has changed in a year. In that time, they had a worse coach in Matt Rule than what Frank Reich is. How much of that can we put on Baker? How much can we not? I'll let you decide that one. Goes to the Rams, somehow wins a game with the Rams on that Thursday night where he just hopped off the plane, went onto the field, won the game before he even checked into his hotel. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but y'all know the point. And then they just had too many injuries to overcome for the rest of the season. And now we're here with the Buccaneers, fully healthy. The best supporting cast he's had around him since that year he took the Browns to the playoffs and won their first playoff game in decades. And this is the results we're getting. Baker has been given another opportunity that most retread quarterbacks never get, even if they were the number 1 overall pick in their draft. Going into the season, I may have said verbatim in my season preview, if Baker does not ball with this team or gets benched for Kyle Trask, he will be breaking down games for college football on someone's network next year because it's over for him after this. If you can't ball with this team, it's done for you. He has exceeded everyone's expectations. Granted, it's not like they're 13-0 or some crazy shit, but they're going to win this division. They look like the best team in this division. If I'm the Buccaneers, me personally, I'm signing Baker to a nice 3-year deal, nice little team-friendly deal, so you don't got to do no more team hopping for the next couple years. Draft a quarterback later in the draft, since you're not going to suck enough to get a Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden McDaniels, or even for the next year of Shedeur Sanders or whatever. Whoever's there in the mid-20s, wherever you end up picking, get one of them and have him sit behind Baker for a while. Say what you want. This isn't college Baker anymore that's grabbing his nuts and slamming the flag. He's a professional now. This is a grown man. He's damn near 30. And I think he'd be more than willing to take the mentor role for a couple years now. Just me personally. I like what I'm seeing from Baker. I like stories like this. What do I say? I'm a sucker for a comeback story. Thanks for the question. Quick break again, and then we're going to go to the power rankings. Power rankings. It's the time of the week where fan bases get mad at a stranger on the internet because I don't think your team is as good as you do. Now, number one on this list is the most obvious number one ever, so we're going to try to make fun with the other 12 people that are going to hear. First up, the first two out, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, they are still leading the AFC South. I'm fully aware, but for how much longer are they actually going to keep that lead? We'll see. Trevor Lawrence looks like he might miss next week. The offensive line is falling apart. Christian Kirk's already been out for the year. Calvin Ridley looks unhappy. Everything looks like it's going to hell in Jacksonville. What sounds more likely? Doug Peterson is fired in the next 2 weeks, or in 2 weeks, Jacksonville has 10 wins? I'll let you decide. Next on the next two out is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the craziest statement I did not think I'd be leaving this week with. Mason Rudolph is the best quarterback they have on the roster. Now, that is a sad state of affairs, but thank God they finally come to that conclusion. I just read a headline today saying, yeah, Kenny Pickett was targeted to return this week, but they're going to go with Mason Rudolph again. They're going to try to sell it as a setback for Kenny Pickett. Oh, no. They finally realized, okay, Mason Rudolph is our best option, who coincidentally is the quarterback they drafted Kenny Pickett to replace. I think the fact that he was still on the roster, period, should have been a glaring indictment of Kenny to all of us that we should have saw coming. But hey, he's a starter now, and they were able to win this week. They're still just outside the playoff picture, but who knows? I still think they'll have a chance, especially if Baltimore wins against Miami this upcoming week, because Baltimore won't need that last game. Maybe they'll be able to win 2 straight and sneak into the playoffs that way. Now we're into the top 10. Let me get my graphic. Thank you, future me, editing this. Number 10, we got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills won, yeah, but did it make any of you feel more confident in the Bills? If anything, I could argue it made me feel less confident. This is an unserious team. Let's just keep it a buck. They're unserious because their quarterback's unserious. Your ceiling is highly limited when you have a quarterback who's just a reckless guy. There were signs of growth. I'll give him that. There are signs of growth because when he was playing a backup quarterback against the Jets in the season opener and he tried to play hero ball the whole game, that's why they ended up losing because he ended up turning the ball over 4 times. Against Easton Stick, he only threw 1 interception. Granted, still reckless throughout most of the game, but still, 1 interception. We'll take it. James Cook couldn't exactly follow up his big performance against the Cowboys the way we thought he would. And we don't know what's happening with Stephon Diggs. He'll probably be on another team next year. Who knows? But Bills stay at 10. Please win more convincingly so people can have faith in you. Number 9, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. And all week long, you are going to hear people doing week 5 in a row of what's wrong with the Chiefs offense? Oh my God, is it the Taylor Swift curse? Is Patrick Mahomes losing it? Do they miss Tyreek Hill? No, the answer is coaching in Landover, Maryland at FedEx Field right now. They miss Eric Bieniemy. From what I understand, for what the Chiefs coaching dynamic used to be, everyone else used to be good cop. Eric Bieniemy was bad cop, which is why he was painted the way he was over there. If you remember, this offseason during training camp, one of the first stories to come out of Commanders camp was that Eric Bieniemy was too hard on the players. I don't know if he's less than that. We haven't heard anything about that since. However, when you're in Kansas City and you have Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid all being good cop, somebody has to be the adult in the room and put foot to ass so mental mistakes like not lining up correctly don't happen or running the wrong route for the 5th straight time in a game doesn't happen. They don't have the foot to ass manager. They need Eric Bieniemy on the team. Funny enough, my old high school head coach broached this subject with me earlier today. Shout out to Coach Neesmith. And I remember him saying something to this effect my senior year. If I'm or one of the other coaches are going to rip you as your coach, we got to make sure we got another coach on the staff that'll patch you back up so I don't lose you forever. We need balance. We need balance. Right now, they got too many patch guys over there in Kansas City, and that's why their offense looks the way it does. And it's amazing to me that nobody else is putting the 2 and 2 together. Granted, if I'm being honest, I think most people know what the issue is, but for whatever reason, they don't want to give Eric Bieniemy credit. You can piece that one together. But as far as needing more receiver help, hey man, Caitlin Clark was at the game. She legit 6 feet tall, one of the best athletes in the world. Taylor Swift's at all the games. She's legit like 6'1". She performs on stage for 3 hours. Hey man, get them some shoulder pads and a jersey. We out here wasting talent in the booth so they can cheer. No. Get on the field. Number 8, we got the Los Angeles Rams. And outside of team number 1, the hottest team in the league right now. They've got the vaunted title of you don't want to see this team in the playoffs, which is always funny to me because every team in the playoffs are good. No duh. Karen Williams, the running back, has been a literal godsend that they've been able to find. Puka Nacua who most of us had no idea who he was unless you're just a devout BYU fan, no more than 8 months ago. Look at the way he's playing. Cooper Kupp hasn't even been able to stay in the lineup consistently. Matt Stafford is giving us a reminder as to why when he gets his gold jacket in about 7 years, 8 years, whenever he ends up retiring in a 5-year waiting period, we're just going to have to be like, all right, bet. I can see it. Sean McVay's coaching his head off. Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator, has them boys humming. They got a lot of rookies on that defense that are playing their ass off right now. Aaron Donald, to me, is still the best defensive lineman in the world. You guys may not have seen a lot of Rams games. That's fine. They're not on national TV often. I was watching that Saints game. I'm watching them get triple teamed, quadruple teamed, and the one time you single cover him, he's making plays. Aaron Donald's still that guy. He's just getting 4 people thrown at him from time to time. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Rams now. Number 7, the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback number 4, Joe Flacco, just gave Amari Cooper his best day as a Brown. I want us all to let that sink in for a second. Shout out to Joe Flacco, man. They have the second or third best defense in the league. They've already hit 10 wins, which nuts. Kevin Stefanski has taken a commanding lead for the Coach of the Year race, and it's looking like we're slowly inching towards the Browns versus whoever wins the AFC South winner. Maybe the Jaguars don't want to win that division now that I think about it. Maybe that might not be the best call. Number 6, we got the Dallas Cowboys. Look, I had to drop them because they lost for seemingly the same reason again. Hopefully, they can pull it together against the Lions this next week. I'm still not in panic mode about the Cowboys. They'll be fine. Just patch up the run game some way, somehow. Get some stops, and don't take your best pass rusher from pass rushing. That doesn't make sense to me. Come on. That can't be the game plan. Number 5, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, who, shout out to the angry Eagles fans who were in the crowd around the third or second quarter yelling, run the ball. Because I was yelling at my TV the exact same thing. The Eagles have the best offensive line in football, and for whatever reason, they went a good 5 to 6 week stretch of just not running the ball. They was like, hey, you know what? How about we let Jalen Hurts throw like 30 plus times? And I love Jalen Hurts, but that's not what he does. Sure enough, they went out there and started road grading. 170 yards on the ground, almost 5 yards a carry. Should have been good night Irene against the Giants. However, that pass defense is, oh boy. I know Darius Slay's been out for the Eagles, but he is still one man who can only guard one receiver at a time. Everybody else, oh Lord. Kevin Byard has not helped the way that we thought he would. Shaq Mason is helping, kinda. First game back, he was able to get a sack on Christmas Day. Shout out to him. But he's not having the impact yet that we think he will. Hopefully that improves throughout the playoffs for the Eagles' sake. But they got some holes to patch up on that pass defense. Number 4, we got the Detroit Lions, who have won the NFC North for the first time since it has been called the NFC North, which I thought was just the funniest headline I've ever heard in my life. Because we joke about the term poverty franchise from time to time, but I don't think we really grasp the concept of the very division we're in its inception, we have never won it. That's just a different level of poverty, but that's not an issue no more. They won. I lauded about the rookie class last week. Laporta looked great again. Gibbs looked great again. Branch looked great again. And the safety / linebacker, number 6, Ife, I can't pronounce the dude's name. I'm sorry. If you're a Lions fan, you know who I'm talking about. Number 6, Ife something. Ifeatu Melifanu. Apologies to all my Nigerians out there. I know I probably just butchered that. But number 6, the safety for the Lions, is a baller. Like, very much in that Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, just what position do you play on defense? Yes, just put him somewhere. He'll figure it out. I saw him line up at inside backer, outside backer, deep middle safety, outside third safety, box safety. They just put him everywhere, and he makes plays all over the field. Hold on, I got to read y'all his stat line for the Vikings game this past week. I know I'm supposed to be talking about the Lions. It's just turned to a Ife fan clubbing, but hold on. 5 tackles, 2 sacks, an interception, and 2 pass breakups. If that doesn't perfectly define what I just described, I don't know what to tell you. Shout out to Ife. Number 3, we got the 49ers. I know there's going to be some people like, they just got embarrassed. How did they only drop the 3? Do you really think the Lions are better than the 49ers? Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Look deeply in the mirror and ask yourself, are the Lions better than the 49ers? Are the 2 teams below the Lions that the 49ers beat the dog shit out of, are they better than the Niners? No, they got stomped against the Ravens. Hey, man, I don't know what else to tell you. And now I have to be the one person who's had the measured Brock Purdy take all season long to say, I told you so. Is he an MVP level quarterback? No. Is he the quarterback we saw on Monday night? Also no. He is a good quarterback who we saw all the inexperience that he has jump out of him on Monday. He is still a quarterback in his second year in the league. That I think just played his what? That was his 20th game, his 19th game. He's a young, inexperienced guy. He's gonna have some games like that. The fact that it took this long is the anomaly. It just so happened to come on the grandest stage of them all. But I got faith that the Niners coaching staff will be able to figure it out. The big concern, though, is Trent Williams left the game with a groin injury. I tried to wait as long as I could before doing this to see if there are some updates. All I see right now is San Francisco Chronicle says that he's going to miss some time with the groin injury. I don't know what that means. If I had to guess, I would guess we don't see Trent Williams again to the playoffs because they have the Commanders and the Rams left on the schedule. They could split those games and still get the number 1 seed. And without Trent, maybe they could get 2 wins. They'll probably end up splitting those games. But dust yourself off. They'll be fine. Everybody takes a L. And now Niners fans, you know how every other team felt when they played y'all. Number 2, we got the Miami Dolphins. I think I'm higher on the Dolphins than a lot more people. And it's not just because, oh, they finally beat a good team in the Cowboys. That's part of it, but it's not it. If I would have told you when they were putting up 70 points and it was Achane motion here and Tyreek blowing the top off the defense here, if I would have told you that this team's defense would have been leading it, would you believe me? If I would have told you before the Cowboys game that the Dolphins were going to run for 91 yards and only score 22 points, you would have said, oh, they lost. But no, their defense had a 40% pressure rate on Dak Prescott. For reference, the league average is around 18 to 20 per game. They were on Dak's ass like white on rice. And that's without arguably their best pass rusher in Jalen Phillips. It is absolute insanity how much better that defense is. So I really like what I'm seeing from the Dolphins defense. Unfortunately, that's probably going to change after they run into team number 1. Y'all knew it was coming. Say it with me. The Baltimore Ravens, who flew across the country, put their feet all over the 49ers couch, took the snacks out their fridge, punched their mama in the face. Okay, y'all get the analogy. The Ravens are now the undisputed best team in football. Straight up. I said this line in my immediate recap after the game. I have to repeat it here. Cat Williams once said, a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom until a Phantom pulls up. Brock Purdy looked like an MVP until Lamar Jackson pulled up. Lamar Jackson is the Phantom of all Phantoms. Last week's power rankings, I said, it is hard to make Lamar Jackson's statistics argument for the MVP, but if you watch the game, there's no doubt that there is not a more valuable player in the world than Lamar Jackson. And that Ravens defense, do you know how much joy it fills my heart with as a Maryland resident whose older brother is a Ravens fan, that we're going to have a week-long conversation about how fucking awesome the Ravens defense is? You know how great that is for me? Oh, man, I loved what I saw from the Ravens that day. Not even just the fact that I called it in my preview and people called me a madman. And magically, when I get my predictions right, y'all don't flood my comments like y'all do when I get it wrong. It's funny how that works. I think they can do the same thing that they did to the Niners to the Dolphins for a couple reasons. One, the Dolphins are built like 80% of the Niners. Obviously, because McDaniel comes from that Shanahan tree. They're built very similarly on both sides of the ball. Very Niners-esque, but a lesser version of it. And also, the Ravens are at home now. Teams walk into the bank and leave with less teeth than they came with. There's a pretty good chance that they're going to be right back at number 1 next week. Shout out to the Ravens. All right, that is the last football topic of the day. Yes, on the day this releases, it would be my birthday on December 27th. I'm turning 27 today, which is crazy to say out loud, but, you know, it is what it is. This is the first year in what feels like forever that I have not been hit with the male existential dread of, oh my God, I'm a year older. What about my goals? What have I reached? What have I accomplished? Which, for the women out there, that's why your boyfriend or your husband or your brother doesn't like celebrating their birthday. That's the actual reason, is because they're drowning in self-wallow and self-pity as to what this milestone day for them actually means. But the first time I haven't really felt that way, and I figured out why this morning. Last year, because my birthday's so late in the year, And end of the year is usually a reflection period for everybody. Add in the fact that I also get a year older at that time, it just quadruples for me as far as the reflection. And last year around this time, I was a month into content creation, and I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, all right, is this something I really want to do? If so, how seriously am I going to take this? And at that moment, I decided, you know what? Fuck it, I'm doubling, tripling down, to which I did. This year, I released somewhere in the area of 400 videos, almost 500 videos, somewhere in that range. So after doing that and seeing the fruits of my labor from that, which have been fantastic, I still have much higher goals and aspirations and things I would like to do this year. Most notably of the things I would like to do this year is I would like to collaborate with more people. There's a reason I haven't been collaborating with people. Most notably, I used to have an interview podcast in 2020. The reason it stopped was when you have a show that relies on you interviewing someone, if you don't have an interview, you don't have a show. Now that I do this by myself, I don't have that problem. I know I'm going to show up for me. Where else I'm going to go? Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, existential dread. So the reason I figured out I don't have that dread is because I know the path I'm on now. And I know that the path I'm on is not a short one. I know this is a marathon. Even when I was in college, I knew I had the deadline of, all right, I'm going to graduate by this year, and I'm going to go try and get my doctorate by this year, and I should be in this class by this, and I should have this GPA by that. This field, I kind of don't have that. And the people that I look at that are in positions that I want to be in one day, the Bill Simmons, Bonmani Jones, Stephen A., Rich Eisen, those people, they're 30, maybe 40 years into their journey. I am 1 year into mine. So I can't even compare myself to my end goal yet, realistically. So that whole existential dread of when am I going to reach my end goal doesn't even really exist, which would sound daunting in theory, but honestly, it's kind of awesome. All I really have to worry about is putting one foot in front of the other and making the best shit possible for y'all, which hopefully y'all feel like I've done, because I've tried all I could for that. So the main two goals for 2024, as I wrap this up, and for year 27 going into year 28, I want to be able to say that I've already shown I could work hard. Making a video sometimes up to 4 every day is hard as fuck. But I want to show, more so for me, that I could work smart as well as work hard, so that I don't eventually burn myself the hell out. Like, if you ask me anything that happened between the week before the NBA play-in tournament and the NBA draft, anything outside of basketball that happened during that time, I have zero memory of because my whole focus, every fiber of my being was focused towards making basketball content at that time. Anything else that happened around that time, no memory at all. But being able to work smart and collaborating with others. As much as I love this solitary space I built for myself and I love this recording process I have, I do want to start working with other people. So I'm gonna start putting myself out there and reaching out to others. And if you want to work with me, reach out to me. Let's collab. Let's make some good shit for 2024. Thank you so much for listening to the Kev BK Beloved Show. I have been Kev BK Beloved, and we'll see y'all next week.